We're going to start now. Thanks very much, guys. Sorry we're running a little bit late, but it's always nice to have a chance to chat. We're going to go into our next session, and I am just thrilled to introduce to you our pals from the Shetland contingent. So we've got Una here, Emma and Rhiannon, who you already heard from already, and Wayne, the glamorous assistant for the computer, but who does so much else besides. Now, we've all sang into our karaoke hairbrushes, but we have, so please treat me like a mic stand. I am but a mic stand. So yes, take it away, guys.
Okay. I'm Una Murray, I'm the project coordinator for Open, and we're basically just going to have 15 minutes, so we've given ourselves cards so that we stick to the plot and don't go speaking for hours. I would just like to start by saying that Shannon Boston is the Open Peer Research Development Worker. She's been with the project since the beginning, and she got ill on Sunday morning and couldn't come. So Wayne stepped in so that we could still bring the young folk and do the job, so he is going to press the buttons. But it's a real shame that Shannon's not with us, because she's been involved in writing the survey, she's been involved in, you know, supporting the work in Shetland around the toolkit. So big praise for Shannon.
We talked about hats at the beginning. Shannon wears all the hats in our network. She's on our steering group. She's a big one for Shannon.
And she started as a young person, but now she's 27. And this is so going to go up my nose, Lauren. And I'd also like to say that Shannon and us, we put the presentation together, but Rhiannon and Emma have very kindly taken on the bits that Shannon was going to speak about. So if we speak off cards, just go with it. It is just to keep us on point. And we're better at running workshops and doing question and answers than we are standing delivering a... Right, shut up, you know. I'll need to wear my glasses so I can see. So Open has gone through transformational change since we got the Ideas funding in 2021. We were a project of Voluntary Action Shetland. We were 10 years old. We were quite well established in the community for being a youth-led project. And since we got involved in the Ideas Fund, we have turned into a youth-led charity. The young people set up a steering group. They wrote their constitution, and our researchers, who are going, Emma will explain a wee bit more about all of that, are helped us through this transition, so it was a wee bit more than we even asked them to do originally. And they helped us to write our strategy, which has been a really valuable process. And basically we just want to make Shetland a place where young people thrive. And our 4 overarching outcomes, what we want to achieve, is based on local systems change. That's the area we're interested in. And we changed the young people established a governance structure where it wasn't just a board of young people that sit around a table and talk about things and, you know, deal with the day-to-day organisational stuff. They set up the peer research teams as subgroups, because they felt that the value of the work and where we'd got to was actually in the gathering the evidence of young people's priorities and needs. So we didn't want to have a board that weren't connected to young people in Shetland in as broad and a bigger way as we could. And I think it's a model that we're not even a year old as an independent charity, but we're trying to gather the evidence of, does this work, and is it actually a way that other boards of all ages should maybe be looking at how they operate. And what we want to really achieve in the long run is to embed ethical, rights-based approach in how researchers can work with young people, as well as how young people can work with researchers. And also looking at how we can gather the evidence of the impact in using this model and working with our professional researchers. So this is our team. We actually call ourselves the Dream Team now, but I thought better not put that in a slide. So basically, as the project coordinator, I've been involved in the strategy side of it. So I get to meet, well, I've been working in all of the work of our project has been connecting with people in decision-making positions. But using the peer research, it's really been trying to look at how do we get the research to the people that can make change. So how do we actually get young folk to be able to present their findings and influence change? So that's my kind of role in it, is I just go around and try to connect everything up. Shannon, who's not with us, is on the picture here, looking very cool. Shannon is the one that recruits, trains and supports the young people and forms the research teams. She's completely guided and supported by Amy and Jennifer in pulling this process together, and my role would be to try and identify who are the key strategic players that we need to get involved in the research team. So when I say research teams, we've done 3 projects that they'll tell you about, but it might be different people that are involved that are like maybe someone from the NHS or maybe somebody that's, you know, in a council. So Amy, who is sitting right here, works for YouthLink Scotland and was matched with us as our sort of academic researcher. And Amy's very involved in like developing peer research methods and been very helpful for the team in looking at how do we do research with young people in a fun way, you know, but keeping it on point, and has very ethical based approach with that. And Jennifer at the end is an independent research consultant. She's from Shetland but has lived in Edinburgh the last 20 years. Jennifer is strategically connected to everyone, sort of locally and nationally, and she navigates the systems with us. She's a change maker, and she's very much helped us, for one, write our own strategy, but for another, connect us into other people's. Who do we influence? How do we do that? I'm going to pass on to yeah. It was supposed to be Shannon.
Yeah, I'm Emma. Yeah, this is Shannon's bit, so I will be reading off of a card. Peer research within Shetland began in October 2021 with the Open Space project and ran for 9 months. Young people identified that a space that is their own would give them opportunities to gain life skills, connect, and that they would be happier. They felt that a space would keep them out of trouble and feel less trapped. They felt these benefits would lead to improved mental health for young people and increasing confidence. Then we had the Alcohol and Other Drugs Peer Research Project, which began in July 2022 and ran for 15 months. The purpose of this project was to understand how Shetland's alcohol and other drug culture influences our young people in the choices they make. As researchers, we want to gain a better understanding of what leads to regular use, what would help young people to avoid problem use, and what young people's support needs are around alcohol and other drugs. The aim of our work wasn't to ask young people what drugs they were taking or dig deep into personal experiences, but rather we aimed to identify why young people use alcohol and other drugs and whether the lack of opportunities and options identified within the Open Space project have an impact on young people's choices. The project wanted young people to have the opportunity to understand the impact of the choices they make, identifying ways of sharing tools and knowledge to young people in ways that they feel is valuable, and finding out suggested services that could do this. Young people knowing where to access support to have the right tools and knowledge to make informed decisions surrounding alcohol and other drugs, placing young people's voices and opinions at the heart of our work. I will pass to Rhiannon.
The Aspirations, Interests and Creative Pursuits is our current peer research project. In every previous project, young people told us about a lack of opportunities leading to inequity within the community, and that this has had a negative knock-on effect on their well-being. The peer research team hopes this project will give young people and the wider community a better understanding of what opportunities young people in our community would feel enrich their lives if they were available in Shetland, that would improve general well-being. Back to you.
Hello again. The Space project was recognised by Shetland's local authority, which led to Children's Services commissioning Open to do a piece of peer research to review their vision, which they would use to inform their directorate plan, evidencing early on that peer research and its benefits was being recognised within the community. As a result of building our expertise in research, we have undertaken engagement work for National Suicide Prevention Youth Advocacy Group 2024 and research project examining positive masculinity called Imagine a Man. We want to continue to develop our expertise and create good practice and relationships that create lasting impact. Open is using YouthLink Scotland's Participative Democracy Certificate Award, PDC, to support and train peer research team members. The award provides a certification to young people that are actively involved in decision-making groups. As part of doing my PDC, I carried out my own piece of research. Amy and Jennifer helped us to choose questions and think about ways to carry out our individual pieces of research that fit the skills we already had or skills we wanted to develop. I decided to create a question box and ask young people at the cafe to post their responses. I found this quite challenging as I wasn't comfortable going up to a group of people and talking to them, but it pushed me out of my comfort zone and gave me a sense of achievement once I'd done it. Shannon helped me to analyse the answers and come up with themes that we used alongside the findings from the survey and the focus group data. We sometimes disagreed, but we always spoke it through and came to a consensus. This helped me to learn new skills and boost my confidence in talking to people. I enjoyed pushing myself beyond what I was comfortable with to make sure young people's voices are heard and valued by everyone. Pass back to Rhiannon.
I find peer research fun because you get to find out how other people feel around things within your community and get to use different ways to find out the information you are gathering. I have learnt that there are so many different kinds of research that can come out with so many different answers. It actually confuses my little brain when I think about it sometimes. I enjoy using the plate analysis method. I like the fact that it's a lot more visual, which helps me understand it a lot better. I also like that it's more than just reading something. It helps to write them on the themes on plates. I prefer cutting up the quotes and sticking them on. My favourite part of analysis is definitely finding out the outcome of it all and putting it towards other bits of research to make change for the better. Back to you.
So last week, we had our first live working group meeting, which I chaired. In the meeting, we introduced ourselves and explained what we wanted to bring to the group using Dixit cards. Those are the cards that are on the tables. We then created an expectations tree consisting of short-term expectations as the branches, or as the leaves, and the long-term expectations as the trunk. We were very ambitious with it. We finished the meeting brainstorming the vision of the group, our own skills and abilities, and the supports we have, discussing if there's anyone we thought would be helpful bringing to the group that weren't already there. It was really uplifting to me to see a group of professionals who are dedicated to making a change for young people. The structure of the group, bringing together the working connections of the professionals and the voices and research of us as young people, is something I haven't seen before, and I think it's incredible. We hope to create an environment in which we are all colleagues rather than it being the professionals and the young people, but of course that comes with time. It's so important that the research we have gathered is being used to guide decisions because it uses the voices of young people to do what is needed to actually make a change. And back to you now.
Next slide. So really just to round it all off, it's been, from the funding from the last 3 years, has made such an impact to our project and the way that we operate. It's given young people a voice where they've said that they feel listened to by their peers as well as the professionals, as well as being able to share their findings in different ways. And our researchers are saying that it's made a difference to them in the way that they look at how they're doing their research and how they've had to adapt and think about how do they share their skills with the community and make sure that they're involved at all the different levels of running a research project. And it's been quite, I mean, the live working group last week, I'm telling you, it was like I've probably done youth work for 30 years and everyone goes, oh, we'll get young folk to sit around the table and we'll have a little chat with them. But actually these folks sat last week and were like, right, we're committed, let's look at 3 years as a short term. How are we actually going to change the system? You know, it shouldn't be that young folk are just consulted and I think it's the peer research aspect that has given them the confidence to know, right, this is actually giving us a method that we can use to actually make a difference into how we develop a local system of change. So yeah, long may it last, onwards and upwards. And we'll do the questions at the end.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, guys. That was brilliant. Great. Thank you very much to all you guys. As ever, there's so much we could talk about there. Really, really inspiring work, which leads us on very nicely to some more inspiring work. So I'm delighted to introduce you to Molly and Hamish and Rosie as well. Molly and Hamish, who are MSYPs, and will tell you about their work as well. So
So thank you everyone for coming through to this session. It's really inspiring that you're all here for youth activism, especially after hearing the amazing work from our other counterparts. So hi, I am Molly. I am the current chair of the Scottish Youth Parliament. I am no longer a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament because my term has run up, so I will resign in June. But I have been an MSYP for the last 5 years, so very, very familiar with this organisation. I am wearing blue jeans, a brown jumper with white underneath, and my pronouns are she, they.
Hi everyone, I'm Hamish. I am a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament for Inverness and Nairn. Molly's my very noisy neighbour. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm wearing a black jumper, blue trousers and a check shirt. We're here today to tell you about the Scottish Youth Parliament's approach to youth-led research and to share an example of how our research has led to meaningful policy change. So first of all, the Scottish Youth Parliament, or just SYP for short, is a national charity which represents all young people aged between 12 and 25 who live in Scotland. SYP gives young people a platform to discuss the issues that are important to them. It exists to raise the voices of Scotland's young people, to make sure decision makers listen to us and involve us in making decisions that affect our lives. SYP is made up of around 160 members of the Scottish Youth Parliament, MSYP for short. MSYPs are 14 to 25-year-olds from every part of Scotland who have been elected by young people to represent Scotland's young people and campaign for positive change. We are very, very passionate about making young people aware of their rights and making sure decision makers uphold these rights. For SYP, Article 12 of the United Nations Conventions of the Rights of the Child, or the UNCRC, is fundamental to our work. Article 12 says that all young people have the right to express their views freely and have their opinions listened to in all matters affecting them. This article underpins all of the work that we do, as well as to campaign for and uphold all of young people's rights in Scotland.
Thank you. And just for a little bit more clarification, we have our slides up, but we also have a little QR code in the corner, which is just for a little bit more information about us, because we realized that we were very limited on time when we came in. So just if you want to find out a bit more, then there's that in the corner. That is our lovely last membership as well. Although SYP has a very small team of staff to support the work that our MSYPs do, SYP is entirely youth-led, which means that young people make all of the major decisions about what SYP does. For example, all of our MSYPs are involved in creating policy, deciding which issues SYP takes a position on and what happens in SYP campaigns. MSYPs are also involved in planning and leading on consultations to find out young people's views, running workshops and meeting with elected representatives and other decision makers all over Scotland. SYP also has an 8-step co-design approach, which I know seems very long, but it's not actually when you put it in the scale of actually running a project. So our 8-step co-design approach, it underpins all of the research that we do. Step 1 is to inform and consult. SYP staff will consult our MSYPs about potential project opportunities to explore all the initial ideas and develop an approach in line with our mission, vision and values. But our MSYPs have the final sign-off. A skills audit. Our staff will identify the skills and experiences required to deliver the activity. 3, a recruitment and training. So a working group of young people will be recruited to lead the project. All applicants are informed of the time commitment, the reward, any remuneration, I hate that word so much, and the skills they can expect to develop. Self-assessment, national youth work outcomes, and the skills audit inform all of our training plans. But all of our training is fun and engaging and in an open and safe space. Number 4 is planning and design. So the SYP staff will support this working group to plan the project to achieve the agreed outcomes. Group members are encouraged to design creative and innovative plans which are flexible and tailored to suit the participants' needs. Number 5 is engagement. So the working group is supported to facilitate creative engagement activities with groups of young people, including those from seldom heard groups and those furthest from their rights. Number 6 is analysis. The working group is supported by staff with significant research expertise to conduct robust analysis of their finding, using an approach developed with Evaluation Support Scotland. Number 7 is a presentation of the findings. So the working group will develop the recommendations and draft a report, usually very engaging with a nice pretty cover, or other resources to present their findings as agreed with funders. And last one, probably the most important, is an evaluation and a feedback loop. Evaluation is carried out throughout every single stage of the process, and staff then collate all the feedback into an evaluation report. SYP supports the working group to present their findings to decision-making audience, which is most often Scottish Government officials or ministers, and also to the young people who have participated. This is the most important part, as young people can see where their contributions have actually made an impact.
To give you an example of a youth-led co-design research project, I'm going to tell you about SYP's independent evaluation of community-based mental health services, which was carried out in 2022. Unfortunately, none of the working group members were able to join us today, but Rosie, our head of participation and programs, who supported the group, is here and might help us answer any questions you have about this piece of work. By might, I mean definitely. In 2022, SYP was commissioned by the Scottish Government to carry out an independent evaluation of mental health and wellbeing community support and services for 5 to 24-year-olds, their parents and carers. The aim of the evaluation was to understand service user experiences, involvement of children and young people in service design and delivery, and wider awareness of services funded by the Scottish Government's Community Services Fund. To make sure this evaluation was led by young people, it was carried out by an investigation team made up of 6 MSYPs aged 16 to 25 who represented regions across Scotland, with support from our board and conveners group, Children and Young Scotland and Evaluation Support Scotland. At their first meeting, the group took part in team building activities and information sessions, which helped them understand the scope of the evaluation. They said it was really important to meet in person so they could feel comfortable with each other and the staff involved in supporting them. They then met online weekly between June and August 2022, where they created an evaluation framework, designed a survey for service users and their parents and carers, and developed plans for a series of interactive focus groups and interviews they carried out with children, young people, and families who used community-based supports and services. A second in-person meeting then took place in late July, where they received child protection and staying safe training, took part in a wellbeing workshop, finalised the focus group plans, and practiced skills they would need to prepare for visits and services across Scotland. Over the 3 weeks in August 2022, the group facilitated 11 focus groups and interviews with children, young people, and parents and carers in 6 local authorities across the country. As well as leading each session, they took notes and reflected on the sessions afterwards to ensure what they heard could be used in the data collection and analysis phase of the evaluation. Following the data collection phase, the team spent 2 in-person weekends carrying out a thematic analysis of the survey and focus group findings. They received training on coding and identifying important information to help them write their recommendations. From the analysis of the data they collected, the group identified recurring issues reported by the service users and providers and used these to form the recommendations they used in the final report. You can find a copy of the report in a blog post on the SYP website, which is linked through the QR code on the screen.
After the report was published, the group presented their findings to the Scottish Government Children and Young People's Mental Health Wellbeing Joint Delivery Board, which is very catchy, and to the wider Mental Health Directorate. They also spent a day with the Scottish Government officials where they talked through the practicalities and the approaches the government could take to deliver each of their recommendations. This then informed a meeting with Marie Todd, the Minister for Social Care, Mental Wellbeing and Sport, where the young people shared their report and discussed their recommendations. Following the publication of this report, the Scottish Government has announced £30 million will be put into community-based mental health funding. The Scottish Government used findings and recommendations from SYP's report to consider the critical importance of providing mental health support to children, young people and families across Scotland, alleviating the continued impact of the pandemic. When they announced the increase in funding, the Scottish Government spoke about the evaluation and the improvement in support and services as a result of direct investment. Our report was also referenced by UN Committee on the Rights of the Child in their concluding observations on the 6th and 7th periodic reports of the United Kingdom last year. Very fancy way to say they were in the UN observations about the UNCRC. So the committee, a body of independent experts who monitor individual states' implementation of the UNCRC, made a series of recommendations to the UK government and its devolved nations, which were informed by children and young people from across the UK. Two of our MSYPs, Bo and Daisy, including a member of SYP's mental health investigation team, travelled to Geneva twice last year to speak about the issues affecting children and young people in Scotland. They also spoke about SYP's report on community-based mental health services, and as a direct result, the UN Committee included a call for state parties to develop or strengthen strategies with sufficient resources to ensure the availability of community-based therapeutic mental health services and programs for children of all ages, and to promote comprehensive mental health services and early intervention. Again, very wordy, but very, very important. States are required to respond to and to take action on the UN Committee recommendations. We look forward to following the progress in Scotland and across the UK over the next years. Sorry, this is a very long document with very few turning points.
Through SYP's evaluation, the group faced three main challenges. Firstly, the evaluation was intended to specifically consider services funded by the Scottish Government's Community Services Fund. Throughout this research, it became evident that the majority of services rely on multiple funding streams to deliver support, and it is not always possible to easily separate the work that they are doing with support from different funding systems. This highlighted the complexity of funding for mental health services. Our recommendation for your research is to carry out desk-based research first, to explore any existing evidence to help you understand the context of the issue you are researching. This will help you focus your research in a way that gives you useful and meaningful information. The second challenge was the timing of the evaluation. This research was carried out in a very short time frame, over just 6 months. This included the summer exam period and summer holidays. The mental health investigation team members were all volunteers, and SYP expects us to prioritise our education. Many services didn't operate over the summer break, so all the focus groups and interviews had to take place in just 3 weeks. The investigation team would have liked to have visited more services and to meet more service users in more areas of Scotland. However, some felt they would have struggled to analyse the results in the time available between the end of the data collection phase and completion of the report, whilst also focusing on their own education and other commitments within and outside of SYP. Our advice for your research is to make sure you have a clear time frame which shows the key phases of your research, and which gives flexibility for setbacks or unexpected delays, and enables young people to prioritise different activities at a different time. Thirdly, the short time frame for this piece of work may have also impacted the diversity of participants who could participate in this evaluation. For example, the majority of young people who responded to the Young People Survey were aged 12 to 17, and there was a significant difference in the survey response rates from different parts of Scotland. Our advice is to consider how well you will gather a wide range of views and experiences from participants from different backgrounds, and to make sure you specifically focus on engaging people from seldom heard groups and those furthest from their rights. It's also important to track participant demographics throughout your research, so you can reach out to other groups if you feel there is a gap or some voices are missing.
So very finally, although there are challenges to youth-led research, there are obviously more benefits that outweigh them. Our MSYPs that are involved in this project led the evaluation at every level, from designing the evaluation framework and the research approach and carrying out the data gathering, analysis, and ensuring the final report effectively represented their findings and made the correct recommendations to the Scottish Government. They held the staff team accountable on every single turn, and they were overall in charge of the project. The fact that this process was youth-led allowed young people to develop, to build confidence, and learn so many valuable skills, particularly around teamwork and time management. Planning, evaluating, and reporting, all of which will be incredibly useful in other areas of their lives. This process also enabled children and young people to focus on the issues that matter to them, instead of the issues adults wanted to find out about. Finally, having young people lead this work also allowed this work to become a peer-led review, which created a safer and more comfortable space for children and young people to share their experiences than if a team of adults were trying to carry out this evaluation. So, thank you for listening to us today, and you can find more about SYP on our website at syp.org.uk and follow us on social media at official SYP.
Thank you so much. Thank you. A really huge thank you to both of you, Molly and Hamish, and I know you've been doing lots of work as well, Rosie as well. I urge you to go and look up more about both SYP and Open as well, two absolutely fantastic projects that I'm still learning from all the time as well. We're again running a little bit behind, but are there any, we do have time for just a couple of questions for either Una and Rhiannon and Emma and Wayne, potentially, and for Molly and Hamish. Yeah, please join us for the kind of final encore. Molly, a question.
I would just love to know from youth groups, kind of coming away with trying different research, because I know research is so important, but looking more on the action front, how do you guys feel that not necessarily adults, but a more kind of powerful, like whatever group can actually help bring your voices into the action part?
I'm just going to repeat for the recording if that's okay, I might get it wrong, but so I guess asking how policymakers or those in a position of power are better able to take on the learning and the research that's come from youth-led peer research and crucially putting it into action.
Thank you very much for your question. It almost feels like a plant of a question because one of our other very important projects that we've been running for the last, year is called the Right Way Project. And that looks at, as we said, we are based in Article 12 of the UNCRC, which is giving young people the right to voice their opinions at every level. And it explores how decision makers can effectively and meaningfully engage with young people. So we have developed this huge resource, a website, a report, and smaller little Z cards and things on how decision makers can meaningfully engage with young people through a little checklist, just how to make things accessible, to make things engaging, and also to make it meaningful. I think so. That's AIM the right way. They have so many catchphrases I couldn't honestly keep up, but the most important part was a training that was delivered to actual decision makers. We had government officials, ministers, CABSECs, I think, who have all participated in this training. One of the most important parts of that was a meaningless meeting. So for young people, sometimes when we get asked to go to things, it ends up being a bit more of a tick box exercise, and we're just there for the sake of being there. So one of the things we do in this training is to make them sit through a meaningless meeting where we sit and talk about anything random that they just don't care about. It's brilliant, and you should see the look on their faces sometimes. But yeah, I think that's something that we can pass on to everyone here if they're interested, but it's really important that decision makers engaging with young people in an accessible way. That's the way that they want to engage.
Can I just add to that? Sorry, I think as well, a really important part of our work is we have a really good professional working relationship with the government and decision makers. So we have events like once a year, we have a cabinet takeover, so young people go into a Scottish cabinet meeting, such as Molly, and they get to bring up the issues that matter to them directly to people like the First Minister. And I think it's having that relationship which really helps, because I think there's the respect where they can come to us if they want to hear our views, and we can also go to them if we've got something we want to raise.
They come to us when they want something, we go to them when we want something.
Sounds like a good relationship, indeed, and I absolutely love the meetings. I'm taking that. So you guys have also been developing your own relationship with the Shetland Council, obviously, and you've started this new live working group, which, it sounds like there's going to be so much more to come out of that as well, and you're just developing that relationship. I guess I wonder if you would have advice for any other kind of youth-led projects if they were wanting to engage with policymakers, something you've learned from this journey so far to get other people working with policymakers as well. Putting you on the spot, so don't worry.
I guess it's finding the right people. You'll always find people who want to make a change and who are willing to make that change and be dedicated to it. So I guess it's just, it's difficult, but trying to find that people that will actually do the actions rather than keep talking about it like everyone does.
Are you going to be introducing meaningless meetings in your...
I actually love that. We're going to do that. We need to write that down. Meaningless meetings. I'm putting my notes, actually. Give me a second, guys.
Did you want to share anything else about the relationship with working with the council or the live working group?
Yeah, basically just what Emma said. Just as long as you find people that also want to... that are actually... I don't know how to word it. That are actually... wanting the same outcome as you as well, and not just people that are going to a meaningless meeting, then I'd say that's the right people to find.
I like the exercise you were describing about having the tree with the long-term goals in the middle and the short-term goals on the outside. And I think, for every kind of project I'm going to be starting with anyone else in the future, I think that's a really nice way to start. And did that help get those kind of shared outcomes and goals at the beginning of that relationship?
100%, because you're kind of looking at what everyone individually is like, what they think the goals are going to be, and then you can like come to a consensus. Or if someone's goals might be like completely different from someone else's, you can like talk through it and be like, right, this is what our goals are actually going to be. But it's a little different from your question. But one thing I love doing is everyone going through their skills and abilities. I think it is so valuable. Even just like to think about what you can actually bring to a group. I think everyone should do it when they have meetings. Whether it's like a first meeting or like your last meeting, just think about the skills and abilities you have, and even the skills and abilities you want to develop, and how you can do that.
Absolutely solid advice. Is there anything you wanted to say following on from that? Yeah.
That's okay.
Just as you're thinking, I feel like one of the best kind of power balancers is to see how good someone is at frying an egg in the morning, I think. That can really test things out. Don't worry if you don't have something at the moment. I think a lot of the things both of you mentioned some really, really interesting, both kind of looking at the barriers and what makes it kind of difficult sometimes for youth-led research or peer research to be kind of listened to better, but very much some amazing positive examples of how that can be done. I think we're going to be, in the afternoon, going to be digging into a few more of those barriers, but also solutions and ideas. So I do suggest, if you have a chance to chat more to everyone up here with me, do, because they are all of you here, and all of you here as well, but I know you guys have a wealth of knowledge and insight to share as well. We're really grateful that you've been able to share some of it with us here, and we'll definitely be picking up a lot of the themes that you've all mentioned in the workshops in the afternoon as well. Are there any more questions for either project before we go?
I was just going to ask Emma, are you part of SYP or are you going to be? Which is in an awful lot of sense.
I'm not currently, but I'm heavily thinking about it now.
I think that was an official nomination. Yeah.
But I've got to say that the Shetland MSYP is part of the research team. And I think that every MSYP should have a research team. I don't think it should be young people representing themselves. I think it should be young people representing the wider community. Wee Bob on the bus stop.
Great, well that's the first official recommendation and nomination here, so you heard it first. Another question here as well, yeah, if you want to say and I'll repeat it if that's okay.
How have you researched or found and spoke with and contacted not so much people with hidden disabilities, people who are hidden and have disabilities?
Great question. So just for the recording, so asking about the methodologies for doing research with people who not only have hidden disabilities, but who are hidden and perhaps also have disabilities as well. Is that right? Not quite. Is that right? Yeah.
Not necessarily hidden disabilities, or people who it's not, people who are not knowing in the mainstream.
Yeah, that is one of the things that we've been thinking about going through in kind of all forms of our work, not necessarily restricting it to people that have disabilities, but generally anyone who isn't as engaged in the democratic process and has a kind of protected characteristic that means that there is additional barriers for them engaging. One of the things that I've been really proud of that we've done in SYP is that we've put together a women's empowerment group to specifically engage young women and to empower them and build confidence in engaging even once they're within the Youth Parliament and also engaging with decision makers. We have also had a really successful group that looks specifically at uplifting the voices and improving the experience of MSYPs of colour within the organisation and also engaging with decision makers. And we've got 2 reports from both those 2 separate groups. The reason that those 2 groups were selected were just based on the board at the time. They wanted to look into the specific experience of those 2 groups as they are very important within,
I can't directly answer it, sorry, but I think especially in Highland, we're currently developing a programme and a forum to try and bring all these different unheard voices together onto one platform so that whether it's ourselves or other decision makers can go through and reach them, hopefully. So we've been trying to work on that for the last 6 months. So that does cover a wide variety, so whether that's home educated, whether that's schools such as Drummond, so special additional support needs schools. So hopefully that answers. So at the moment it is a challenge, but we are trying to address the challenge.
And we're just going to have to be a very quick answer because I am keeping you from your lunch.
Yeah, this is a very Shannon question, so I'm going to be brief. But we are, I know, currently looking at ways to reach everyone in Shetland. It's something we are working on. We are focusing on it just now, and trying to get into schools to make sure we are talking to everyone, and our research is from everyone. It's a very Shannon question.
Great, yeah, and a real shame that we couldn't have Shannon here. Shannon is wonderful. We can't sing her praises enough, but hope she gets better soon. Okay, I am delighted to say that lunch is almost ready, so we're going to wrap up this session here. I think we're all going to rejoin back in the main room, and we'll introduce the lunch, and I'm sure you can pick up on a lot of these questions and conversations. But one more round of applause to everyone. Thank you so much.